Chapter 1, First Encounter. This is the story of how Succubus and Dragon first met. One night, the succubus decided to go for a walk down the beach. She lived in the city on planet Equinox, so she liked to get away as often as she could to commune with nature and distance herself from all the noise of people and city lights. Tonight was the first supermoons of the year, so she decided it would be the perfect night to take a stroll down at a new beach spot she hadn't been to yet. Equinox has 3 of its own moons. It was after midnight, her favorite time, and the full moons shone brightly over the calm water. The waves were crashing gently at her feet. She loved the smell of the salt in the air, the sound of the waves crashing, and the feel of the coarse black sand between her toes. And with the combination of the supermoon, this night was perfect, absolute perfection. It almost allowed her to forget her loneliness, if only for a few moments. The water was warm and therapeutic for her, as was the moon's energy tonight. As she continued further down the shoreline, she realized that she had lost all track of time. She had wandered far down the beach without even realizing it. Ahead of her, she noticed what appeared to be a cave. She couldn't be sure without getting closer, but it looked like there was an opening hidden behind some sea grape trees and beach vitex bushes. Sea purslane hung over the edges of the rocks as well. I'll have to grab some of that to add to my salad for lunch tomorrow. I love how salty sea purslane tastes. The succubus loved plants and always tried to identify them wherever she went. And out of nowhere, the air shifted and it began to rain. She looked up at the sky and stopped walking, allowing the raindrops to splash against her cheeks and run down her face. She loved the rain on Equinox because it was always warm, like tropical rain. She smiled and raised her arms above her head toward the sky with open palms, accepting every drop as it splashed against her almost bare skin. Suddenly, it started pouring. Lightning lit up the sky and the moons became hidden behind a thundercloud as a loud boom shot through the sky across the ocean water. The wind began to pick up as well. She decided to weed through the vitex bushes to see if what she thought was a cave entrance really was one. Pushing aside the last of the sea purslane that was drooping down, she was able to get through the opening into the cave. It was a large opening, just very hidden. She ducked into this mysterious cave. I'll wait it out here. I do love a good thunderstorm, but that wind was freezing, she said as she smiled and tried to wring out her long hair. Just seconds after stepping inside the cave, she began to notice that it was a good 5 degrees warmer in there. This is nice. Man, if I didn't have to work tomorrow, I'd just camp out here for the night. Further inside the cave, she suddenly noticed what appeared to be a faint red glow. That's strange, she thought to herself. I wonder if other people camp out down here. She cleared her throat. Hello? Anyone in here? I don't want to startle you. I just came in to seek refuge from this crazy storm. I'll be out of your hair in a few minutes. She walked in a little further. Is it just me, or is it getting hotter? She continued down further into the cave, which was surprisingly long and twisted. She could hear the rushing sound of bats overhead, but they didn't bother her. She liked bats. They were creatures of the night, just like herself, also misunderstood, which she could relate to. How is this cave going back so far? This is crazy. It didn't look this big from the outside. She got out her phone to use as a light. Okay, seriously, hello? How is there a light coming from back here, but no one seems to be around? Did someone leave a road flare in here? That's not very safe. What else makes a red light like that? Also, how am I sweating? She noticed the temperature had gone up at least another 10 degrees or so. Are caves always so hot? Holy shit. Just then, she noticed just a little further in the source of the red light. It was coming from this hole in the cave wall about 100 feet away. Okay, it is definitely way hotter back here. There's no way I'm imagining it. I'm not sure how much further I can go in at this rate. The temperature is continuing to rise like this. It could be 110 degrees. She remembered the summers on her home planet, Lotus, getting up to almost 120 sometimes. That's actually one of the reasons she decided to move to Equinox. It wasn't cold here, but it wasn't hot as hell like Lotus. It stayed right in the 80s, which was the perfect temperature in her opinion. As she neared the ominous hole in the wall, the light got brighter. She put her phone away now. The wall looked almost hand-constructed. It wasn't like the rest of the cave. It was like someone had put rocks to make a wall. Or maybe there was an earthquake at some point and it caved in? No, it definitely looked like it was purposely placed there. The hole in the wall looked like it was actually only there because a rock had fallen out of place. The hole was about the size of her head and had steam coming through it as well. She tried to put her face to the hole, but with the steam, she couldn't see anything. Ouch! Fuck, that burns. Okay, I need to see what's behind this wall. I came this far. Curiosity killed the cat. Hopefully it doesn't kill the succubus. Ouch! Fuck, that burns. Okay, I need to know what's behind this wall. I came this far. Curiosity killed the cat. Hopefully it doesn't kill the succubus. She began to pull at the wall with her hands, slowly pulling rocks off one by one. Then they slowly started to tumble down as she pulled at them. Some of the rocks seemed to have jagged and pointy ends to them. Huh, that's weird. What do they call those pointy things that form in caves? We learned about them in elementary school. Stalactites, I think? No, those were bigger, I remember. She looked on her phone for the light again. She picked up one of the pieces of smooth, sharp rock and inspected it more closely under the light. Whoa, these look like crystals. In fact, they look like selenite crystal I have in my home. Oh, I'm definitely keeping one of these. She threw one large piece in her pocket. She continued to pull at the rocks until she made a hole large enough to fit through. As she climbed over the heap of selenite crystals, she finally could see what the source of the light was. Torches? Well, that's creepy as hell. I wonder if maybe some vampires live back here? I didn't think our city had any vampires. I thought they mostly all migrated north because it was too hot for them here. Oh yeah, wait. They don't like heat. So this can't be a vampire coven. Also, this flame is nothing like I've ever seen before. It's so dark red, it almost glows. Her curiosity almost always got the best of her in these situations. She blamed her succubus nature, but there's no proven studies that succubi are more curious than any other species. She continued down the corridor, following the torches with the unusual fire. She could see what looked to be a clearing of some sort coming up ahead. As she turned the corner, she almost let out a scream of excitement but quickly covered her mouth with both hands. She could not believe what lay before her eyes. Right there, in the very center of the cave, lay a real, live dragon. He was sleeping, and every time he breathed out, a tiny cloud of smoke and steam came out of his nose. No fucking way, she whispered under her breath. A dragon. And it's a he dragon. She was almost drooling. She started to jump up and down in pure childlike excitement, only about an inch above the ground as to not wake him. She could barely contain herself. Dragons are supposed to be the most well-endowed of any species I know. I was obsessed with reading all the dragon erotica in my younger days. She felt herself getting warmer just thinking about it. I thought they were extinct like 100 years ago. No one's seen one in at least that long. With dragons' antisocial nature, even 100 years ago they were rarely seen. They kept to themselves more often than other species and always lived on the outskirts of towns or on the edge of cliffs or other weird places like that. She was so excited about discovering a dragon that her brain hadn't even acknowledged what else she was seeing. Wow, that's a lot of gold. She tiptoed to get closer. Wow, this is spectacular. More beautiful than I had ever envisioned a dragon's lair to look like in all of my dreams. I spent so much time fantasizing what it would be like to have sex with a dragon, and now I find one? The dragon lay right on top, in the very center of the pile of gold. It would take someone likely a lifetime to count the amount of gold that was in the cave. Not only gold either. He had a huge amount of silver and precious gems littered throughout the gold as well. Did I mention the walls yet? The walls of his cave were covered in crystals, almost entirely. She could barely see anything but crystals making up the walls of the cave. It looked like amethyst and citrine. She had a huge crystal collection at home, so she was pretty familiar with most types of crystals. Typically, she'd be losing her mind over the crystal walls, but all of her focus was directed entirely on the dragon. She crept even closer. She noticed he was sleeping next to a smaller mound of gold coins. As she looked closer, she noticed something peculiar about the small mound of gold next to him. That gold looks like it was combed together to resemble a woman's figure, she thought. The gold had been shaped into what appeared to be a curvy woman, with 2 sapphires for eyes, a large ruby for lips. He was snuggled up real close to it with his scaled arm wrapped around it, and his nose nuzzles inside the coin lady's ear. Well, that's freaking adorable, she thought to herself. Not even giving it a second thought, she reached out instinctively to caress his arm ever so gently. The dragon softly moaned and grinned, still fast asleep. Her succubus nature unknowingly started to kick in. She traced her fingers along his body and slowly circled around him, once clockwise and then again counterclockwise, predatory. Her succubus nature allowed her to be very light-footed and silent. She slowly climbed herself on top of him. He nuzzled his nose deeper into the coins with a grin. Her touch tended to cause her victim's dreams to turn romantic, one of her special little powers. She stopped touching him now and just hovered over him, inspecting this specimen of a dragon, her prey. Mine, she said to herself. His skin was smooth and brown like sweet dripping caramel sauce that you pour over ice cream. Heat radiated off his skin, creating steam. He was very hot to the touch. So you're what's heating up this whole cave. His hair was black halfway down the length of his back and looked to have naturally formed into locks over time. He had 2 pointed horns on top of his head. He wore torn-up pants that looked like they were just some material that he had found somewhere and threw on. It wasn't cheap material, though. It felt like expensive silk. He was shirtless and very fit, and he had a long, thick tail. So thick, she thought. She held back from touching his chest just then. Her gaze fell downward toward his pants. I wonder if all the stories are true, she thought. What you got down there, big guy? She leaned in close now to his face. He had a messy beard, pronounced jawline, and plump, tasty-looking lips. She leaned in to smell him. Just as she did, his eyes opened. They were staring directly at her. Oh, his eyes are lovely too, like pools of honey. The flame from the torches flickered in his eyes. He looked up at her, slightly terrified, but quickly attempting to change his demeanor to stern. You may be wondering, wasn't she scared? This was a dragon after all. Aren't most people terrified of these mythical beasts? Well, that's where succubi differ from other species. We don't scare easily, rarely ever. We're predators, alpha females. We do not cower. We do not back down. We run this shit. Hi, the dragon said timidly with a little wave. Realizing how he may come off, he quickly changed his tone. I mean, hello, he said, more deeply and with a hint of fierceness in his voice now. Who are you and what are you doing in my lair? His eyes were piercing. He was trying so hard to assert dominance, but failing miserably in her opinion. Hey, she said nonchalantly, and reached for his scaled arms. I'm Carissa. She pressed down his arms firmly into the ground, pinning him down. People a lot of times underestimated her strength based on her appearance. They obviously weren't acquainted with many succubi. Oh, said the dragon. His expression went back to timid and slight worry. Where did you, I mean to say, his tone changed to a booming showman-like voice. Welcome! Just then, her tail hit something cold. It felt like metal. She turned around, still pinning him down, and wrapped her tail around it, lifting it toward her hand with ease. You have a scythe? I didn't think dragons used weapons. Don't y'all breathe fire? Also, something reddish is dripping from this blade. Who'd you just get done eating? She said jokingly. The dragon was just getting his strength back from being in his just-woke-up state and managed to wiggle out from underneath her. Coins bounced everywhere as he slid down a pile of gold to the cave floor. I just used that as a fruit harvester. I got it from a village I pillaged a long time ago. A dwarf village, I believe. I grow dragon fruit here. Want to see? It has dark pink juice. That's what you're seeing on the blade. He started to walk towards his dragon fruit plants. They were growing straight up the cave wall, a good 10 feet high. Also, I'm slightly offended that you aren't scared of me, like, at all. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. You're a dragon and you eat dragon fruit. How adorable is that? She said, laughing. He looked at her very unimpressed. I'd really appreciate it if you could never refer to me as adorable ever again. I'm sorry. It's just, you're a dragon. First of all, wow, congratulations on surviving extinction. Thank you. What can I call you anyway? I already told you my name. What's yours? Oh, I'm Dion. His voice picking up volume and echoing through the cave. The Magnificent! You just made that up right now, didn't you? Yeah, I kinda did. Just Dion's fine. Carissa slid down the gold heap after him. She bent over in front of him to pick up a purple gem she had seen on the floor. It was just now that Dion was able to get a good look at her for the first time, since she wasn't, trying to take advantage of him right now. She had long, light brown hair that was wavy and messy. She was wearing a purple bikini that had a star that crisscrossed over her chest. She had curly horns on her head that were the same color as her bikini, as well as wings and a tail that had an end that looked like a heart. Her body was curvy and her butt was perfection. I'd love to rest my head on that at night, he thought. It looks tender and juicy. I'd love to take a bite of. Hey, buddy, up here, she said, interrupting his train of thought and knowing exactly what she was doing. Oops, sorry, yeah, you look cold. I can make you a jacuzzi. Give me a minute. He sprinted to the other side of the cave. He was very socially awkward. Cold? It's hotter than a motherfucker in here. Did you just say make a jacuzzi? Yeah, he yelled from across the cave, his voice echoing. He was running around, working very quickly on something. Come here, lovely Carissa. He jolted across the coins and slid. Grabbing her hand, his coins bounced and chimed everywhere. Stupid pile of useless gold. I wouldn't say useless. I mean, you can buy a lot of stuff with it. A lot of stuff with this amount. I don't really care about money either, though, so I get it. Crystals, on the other hand, I do like. But why do you have all this gold anyway if you don't even like it? I did, but his voice got quiet and slightly trailed off. It doesn't keep me warm at night. He looked down for a moment, zoning out. He looked defeated. He perked back up quickly, trying to put a smile on his face. He grabbed Carissa's hand, leading the way. Want to warm up in the jacuzzi? I'm not sure how much more heat I can... Just then, around the heap of gold, she saw the most beautiful, romantic even tub that she had ever seen. It was big enough for at least 4 people, or maybe 1 centaur. It was smooth and deep purple. Is this glass? It's beautiful. Purple's my favorite color, and combined with the amethyst walls, damn. Can I move in? Yes! Which part? Moving in, yes, please. Wow, just like that? No date first? Oh, date. Anyway, jacuzzi, do you like it? I made it myself. He was so awkward. She found it quite endearing. You made this? Yes. I found a giant piece of amethyst crystal, and it was bowl-shaped, so I decided to use my fire breath to mold it into a tub. I didn't know fire breath could do that. Wow, you're like a glass blower. You could sell these. Keep it. What? No, I couldn't. No, please, keep it. I can fly it over to your lair later if you like. It's easy to make, barely an inconvenience. Please try it. Hop in. Okay, but just for a moment. I'm already so hot. I might pass out. Dragon? Dion, where'd you go? Under here, you lovely thing. She stepped into the one-of-a-kind amethyst hot tub. The water was warm, but not quite hot yet. Just then, she seen flames shooting out the other end of the tub underneath it. The tub was transparent in some places. Dragon? What are you... Just then, the tub started to heat up rapidly. Ah, I see what you did there. Dion was rushing around the cave, blowing out all his torches. He arrived back with an armful of dragon fruit flowers and a bowl of roughly chopped up dragon fruit. He gently placed all of the flowers into the tub, evenly spacing them out between each other, systematically. Almost as if he had planned all of this ahead of time, or maybe like he had been planning it for years. Oh wow, you just get right down to business, don't you? I have to admit, this is pretty romantic. Won't you join me, Dragon? Without a moment of hesitation, Dion hastily jumped in, making a big splash. Whoops, sorry. It's just, this is the first time I've had a girl over, like, ever. I just wanted everything to be perfect. Is the heat okay? Are you comfortable? Do you need anything? What do you need? Calm down, Dragon. It's perfect, she said, as she untied her bikini and let it fall to the floor. Absolute perfection.